is going to be the whole topic for a whole weekly vlog. So things will be highly delayed. I apologize. But yeah, this is another weekly vlog, and we wanted to talk about a few things. We want to talk about Emmie's Botox. And you're thinking, wait a minute, Botox for her forehead? No. Botox for her bladder. And you're wondering, why does someone need Botox for their bladder? Let me explain. So, my wife is a C5, C6 quadriplegic. She got injured February 21st of 2024. And bladder Botox is typically used in people who have bladder spasms or incontinence. Bladder spasms can cause leaking and incontinence and just all general anxiety. Because when people have bladder spasms, it can really, honestly, ruin the quality of your life. And in that way, because you have a spinal cord injury, if you have it high enough or low enough, it can still affect your bladder and bowels. And one of the main issues that my wife experienced was bladder spasms. I think it started in her injury, and it was around March. They started in February, the moment she got injured. Unfortunately, I think 5 days after injury, February 26th, that's when the bladder spasms started. It was significant enough to cause her chronic anxiety about it. Oh my gosh, well, my bladder spasm and I'm not prepared. So my wife's bladder spasms would get so bad, not to the point that it'll cause full-on, blown accidents, and she's very grateful for the fact that they didn't. But they did cause a borderline anxiety around everyday life because of the fact that she had to worry about her bladder spasms. In March, thankfully they got her on really quickly, she started bladder Botox. After the bladder Botox had kicked in, she still had a few bladder spasms, but it really helped. They started out on 100 units, and it really did help. It was really good for Emmie, and we were very grateful that it did completely, it completely stopped it until it wore off. So my wife's bladder spasms are pretty much constant without the Botox. Without the Botox, my wife will experience several bladder spasms to the point that she might leak a little. Without my wife's bladder Botox, she would have bladder spasms, and they get pretty much worse around that 3 to 4 month mark. Not too bad, but she finds herself doing more catheterizations and then having more higher autonomic dysreflexia when her bladder is nowhere near the amount of full that it should be. Because my wife can hold about 500 cc per catheter that she does every 5 to 4 hours, and that has been her regular. But when it gets around the bladder Botox time, around 2 months and a half or even 3 months and a half, depending on the frequency and bladder spasms, she will start doing about 300 or even 200. That's not normal. She would have a 250 cc catheter even though her AD felt extremely high, and that is not good. And then her bladder would eventually, if her bladder got too full, maybe 300 cc mark, which again is not normal at all, it would just leak. And that is not good. That is not normal for my wife, and that has never been normal before the bladder spasms. With the bladder spasms, they typically kick in around the 3.5 month mark or the 2.5 month mark, depending on her frequency and needs. My wife does, again, a 500 cc catheter, and then it only turns into 250 quickly, which is not good. And that's hardly 2 hours. From my understanding, she typically gets Botox every 4 to 6 months. Our apologies for making this so long. So if we talk about other topics and we're just constantly mixing things up, we do really apologize. But I think we have the schedule down. So my wife got it in March of 2024, right after a UTI and right after her spinal cord injury because her bladder spasm was getting bad. And then her second one was July of 2024. And then her insurance was being funny. It wouldn't no longer cover the Botox anymore. So she had to go a long time. Fortunately, in this time, she had never gotten a UTI when she stopped Botox. My wife had gone 11 months without Botox. 11 months.
Jesus.
She hadn't had a UTI in this time. Her bladder was actually finally listening to her and not being crummy. And sadly, the unfortunate reason was her insurance was being crappy. It would no longer cover the $1,000 of Botox that she needed. unfortunately. So we had to forego that third treatment. And we should have put the year. No offense, I was a little dummy and didn't do that. But now we got it compact. And finally in June, we to a new insurance and they covered it. They actually fucking covered the one in June. So we're like, hooray, we can get her back on Botox. And then 4 months later, in October, she's got another Botox. October 17th was her round of Botox. She did really well, and they decided to use laughing gas instead because one of the main reasons why she would be sedated during those procedures is because she has a possibly quite literally deadly condition called autonomic dysreflexia, which happens to people T6 or higher in spinal cord injuries. And they wanted to keep her sedated due to the fact that it might be firing and they don't want it to happen. Like, they wanted to keep track of everything, and thankfully it never had, so she got the laughing gas one, and she did pretty well. She did have high amounts of AD during this procedure, not due to the needles. We think it's due to the fact that her bladder was a little too full, more fuller than we wanted it to be for the procedure. But yeah, here is the rundown of all my lovely procedures. March of 2024, I got my first bladder Botox procedure. That was covered by insurance. And then July of 2024 as well, when I went 4 months without Botox, July, they also covered that. And then I went 11 months without Botox, which is insane. I went almost a year. I stopped for 11 months because I didn't have any random UTIs. Thankfully, my bladder spasms had calmed down and weren't that crazy. We were drinking more water and we were working out during that time, so I think that helped it a lot. And then in June, it started getting a little bad again because, not really bad. It's just we finally found an insurance that could cover it, and I felt a lot better being on the Botox than off. I would have these bouts every few months or every month where I would get really scared if I felt the sudden AD, like I barely had a few minutes, because my bladder would spasm and then leak, which is not good at all. So, sure, I went 11 months, but not comfortably. Because insurance wouldn't cover it, and I had a lot of these issues. Thankfully, the insurance covered the one in July. October 17th was my current and last one as of currently. So, I would have been shocked if I got all 4 in 1 year, but I had gone a long time without Botox. Almost a year. That is insane. But I had my Botox recently. It went well, pretty much fine. Yeah. I had my Botox and I'm doing good, and I feel a lot more comfortable on the Botox than without it. So I've had 4 procedures of Botox. I had 2 last year and I've had 2 this year. My 5th one is scheduled in February or March. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching my little Botox thing and all the fucking struggles we had trying to figure it out. Once again, we do appreciate you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Bye. Procedure is scheduled for March. Fucking hell.